Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. And Christmas is coming very, very soon. So we're going to get right into it. This is the second week of December. I've got my little Santa Claus boots on because we're going to start with December 6th. And December 6th is known because it is the birthday of Saint Nicholas. And in many countries, Saint Nicholas is a totally different figure from the one that we call Santa Claus. In fact, so many Americans have wondered who is Saint Nicholas and why are the Europeans so adamant about celebrating him? Even places like Turkey, Macedonia, parts of the old Mesopotamian area. So William Bennett, a former Secretary of Education, wrote this book, The True Saint Nicholas, Why He Matters to Christmas. And you can see this picture there. That is a very old picture of what he looked like. But of course, he's taken many, many forms. And before I show you more pictures of him, I want to go a little bit into the history of Saint Nicholas Day. Now, St. Nicholas Day is a favorite holiday, especially with German children. On the night of December 5th, children clean and polish their boots and leave them outside the door before going to bed. And the next morning, they find their shoes filled with nuts, candy, and small gifts from St. Nicholas. He also will appear in shopping malls and children's clubs. But Santa Claus is important there in Germany, but St. Nicholas is much more important. And here he is. This is him in a mall. He looks a lot different from what we think of as St. Nicholas. But I'm getting way ahead of myself, aren't I? I haven't even gone through all the dates for this week. I'm so excited about telling you about St. Nicholas. So I'm going to back up and let's go through some of these dates first for the second week of December. December 6th, as I said, is St. Nicholas Day. Was the birthday in 1896 of Ira Gershwin, who wrote American in Paris and so many different things. Ira and George wrote these together. It is Mitten Tree Day. And in 1865, the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery was ratified. The 7th of December is National Cotton Candy Day. And on a much more serious note, it is Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day from 1941. And we will talk about that too. On the 8th is National Brownie Day, and when the inventor Eli Whitney was born in 1765, and he created the cotton gin, and that's why we have so many cotton pieces of clothing today. December 9th, ball-bearing roller skates were patented in 1894, and the other day I took my grandchildren to a roller rink down in Fountain Valley, and I'm so glad to hear that they are back open again. It's so good to see the kids getting all that energy out. And then they're quiet and sweet for a few hours after. Also on December 9th, the first Christmas seals were issued in 1907. And we want to take a look at what are Christmas seals. All these Christmas things coming up, and it's still, remember, Hanukkah is still going on. This is the 6th day of Hanukkah for 2021. And it is also the season of Advent, the second week of December. December 10th, Human Rights Day, Nobel Peace Prize Day, and this is the day that the prizes are awarded. 4 of them in Stockholm, Sweden, and 1 in Oslo, Norway. And then the 11th, National Noodle Ring Day, UNICEF anniversary, that was established in 1946. And in 1620, as late as December 11th was when the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock. You can imagine it's probably very snowy and cold and oh my gosh. So back to St. Nicholas Day. I did want to get in some of those other dates for you. So we're looking at a picture. I have a picture. This is from my grandmother's old Modern Maturity, which is what the ARP magazine used to be called. And there he is. This is from the 1920s when the idea of Santa Claus is still evolving in the public's imagination. So artists have to decide, what does he look like? And look at the clothes. That's probably before the 1920s. Looks more like around the early 1900s, the clothing that the children are wearing. My goodness, look at those beautiful coats. Winter coats, something I miss from the north. We have beautiful, beautiful winter coats. So back to looking at St. Nicholas, and Nicholas was a very jolly fellow, and he celebrated the birth of Christ, and he would go around not only in Germany, but in Turkey, where he supposedly originated. That is where he would fill stockings of poor children or their shoes and get them food to eat, oranges and nuts and healthy foods. And then a few little toys to play with, because the children, so many of them were poor and didn't have much. And this is when Christmas is kicked off in many, many countries. Here's another older picture. I want you to be able to see him, take a look at him. Look at his holly. There's so much symbolism, his ermine robe. And look at the toys, the kind of toys that children used to get before all the electronics. The wooden toys that last forever. Look at the candles on that tree over there. Of course, Christmas is beautiful now, and it was beautiful then. This looks like a Victorian Santa or St. Nicholas. And then, of course, we know him as Santa Claus, and we have a very fun picture taken in the painted in the 1960s. This is Santa after Christmas is over. He's soaking his feet. Poor guy. I know how he feels. Sometimes my feet bother me. He gets his boots off. He heats up a kettle of hot water. And man, he is just ready to relax. He's got his coffee or his hot cocoa, whatever it is. And then he's ready to take a long winter's nap. Boy, that sounds good. Okay, so then we're moving over to the next date that we want to talk about, a much more serious one, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. In 1941, there was a surprise military strike by the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service against a U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Honolulu, which at that time was in the territory of Hawaii, long before it became a state. They attacked just before 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, and they wanted to keep the Americans from hindering their plans to take over much more territory in Southeast Asia, including British territories, American territories, and other territories. So it was planned actions in Southeast Asia and against overseas territories. There were 2,403 American deaths, including 68 civilians, and 19 Navy ships were either destroyed or damaged, including 8 battleships. And thank God it didn't get more. There were some who had gone 20, 30 miles out to sea to do exercises, naval strategic exercises. So we did have a few that could retaliate, but not most of them. So then Germany and Italy, through these actions after Japan, they also declared war on the United States. So the United States retaliated 3 days later, and FDR addressed Congress And there was also a speech on the radio, and he said it was a day that would go down in infamy. And it has remained that. And there is a memorial over there. Many Japanese Americans were rounded up in our country and sent to internment camps for the duration of the war and lost their property. Many of them who had settled in Los Angeles in the early 1900s or 1920s lost valuable downtown property, and it was never given back to them. To their credit, Jewish people who were rounded up and taken out of parts of Denmark by the Nazis, the Danish people kept their homes, kept their shops, swept them out, and kept them clean for 4 or 5 years and returned the property to those Jewish people. So this is a very black mark against the Americans. But anyway, December 7th, we recall the start of World War II for us. Well, then we're going to skip over to December 9th, and that is known as Christmas Seal Day. And the Danes were actually the first ones to come up with it. It was the idea of a Danish postman who got permission from the postmistress to add an extra charitable stamp on mailed holiday greetings during Christmas. And the extra money they raised helped children sick with tuberculosis. There was no cure in those days. And the plan was approved by the postmaster and the King of Denmark. So in 1904, the world's first Christmas seal was issued bearing the likeness of the Danish queen and the word julen, which is Christmas in Danish. They sold over 4 million. Here's a picture of the man, the creative man who came up with the idea, Emil Holbel. I hope I'm saying his name right. During the first 6 years, enough funds were raised to build the Christmas Seal Sanitarium in Kolding, which was a hospital for these children, and it opened in 1911. So the Americans heard about this, and they decided that they wanted to do something. Christmas seals were introduced to the United States by Emily Bissell in 1907 after she read about what the Danish had done. And here is one of the early ones from 1914 that the American Red Cross designed and sold to raise money for their charity. By 1908, Bissell's idea grew to a national program. It was co-sponsored by the National Association for the Study and Prevention of Tuberculosis and the American National Red Cross, and they sold the seals in post office lobbies. They started at 1 penny each, and they were raising money. By 1920, the Red Cross withdrew from the arrangement, and they tried different things. After World War II in the 1940s, there was a development of an antibiotic, streptomycin. TB became a curable disease, although it would be decades before it would be considered under control in developed countries. So they changed the name to the National Tuberculosis and Respiratory Disease Association in the 1960s, and then that became the American Lung Association, and they continue to sell the seals to work to get rid of all different kinds of lung diseases. So that's who benefits from the Christmas seals today. Tuberculosis has been declining, except in more recent years, it's on the rise again in third world countries. It's still one of the most infectious diseases, and we have discovered some of it among our population, our homeless population in the downtown areas. Canada also decided to adopt this program as well. What a great idea. And isn't that just the greatest idea? November 10th, we celebrate something really good. It is Nobel Prize Day. And Mr. Nobel, Alfred Nobel, had patented dynamite in the modern era. You know, the Chinese invented dynamite. So it's been around a long time, but we didn't get it in our part of the world until Mr. Nobel came up with it. So there was a big shock on November 27th, 1895, because that was the day Alfred Nobel signed his third and last will in Paris. When it was opened and read after his death, it caused a lot of controversy in Sweden and internationally because Nobel had left much of his wealth from his many, many different companies that he'd founded to establish a prize, and his family opposed creating the Nobel Prize. The prize awarders he named refused to do what he had requested in his will. So of course it went to court. It was 5 years before the first Nobel Prize could be awarded. Here's a picture of Mr. Nobel, who felt bad about all the evil that came from dynamite, and he wanted to create something good. He started 87 companies around the world. He directed that his enormous fortune be used to establish prizes to award to those who had done their best to benefit people, to benefit humankind. Each prize would recognize the fields of physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. So they started another, the committee added another prize, the Sveriges Risbank Prize in Economic Sciences in 1969. So each year on the 10th of December, the Nobel Prize ceremony is held in Stockholm, Sweden on the anniversary of the day that Mr. Nobel died. And so then they announced the Nobel laureates in October, but gather in December for the ceremony and receive their prizes from the Swedish king. They get a Nobel diploma, a medal, and 10 million Swedish crowns per prize. Now, there is one exception. The Nobel Peace Prize receives the award in Oslo from the Norwegian king. What a great way to decide to spend their money. Now, I need to put it on pause for a minute, and I have an inspirational story I wanted to share with you. Yes, I'm back. You know, at Christmas time is when so many people feel the warmth and generosity of the spirit of the Lord, and so they want to do good deeds for others. And I have a very heartwarming story. This one from the Epoch Times that happened recently. The title is A New Home for 13. A family of 13 was given 30 days notice to leave a rented house in Utah. They suddenly found themselves with nowhere to live. They had these 11 children. So what did they do? There wasn't anywhere to go. Their family was so large. They moved into a tent. But their fortune took a turn when a local real estate agent heard of their plight and offered to buy their dream property. Brittany and Danny Shelton, ages 39 and 40, are raising their kids in Tremonton, Utah, as a city firefighter and an emergency responder or paramedic, respectively. They were working on buying their rented house, their treasured home of 7 years, until the housing market changed and their landlord decided to sell. He told them last June they had 30 days to find somewhere to live. We had no clue, Brittany told the Epic Times. The future that we had planned in this home was no longer happening. We always paid our rent and took great care of the home. We even paid to have new flooring put in just weeks before this happened. The prospect of leaving their friends and neighbors was equally devastating for the Shelton kids, ranging in ages from 16 to 1. They had to stay in Tremonton because if Danny left, he'd lose his firefighting job. However, Brittany said for the few rental homes that exist in the area, there were long waiting lists. We were blindsided, she said. With our family size and the best conditions, it's hard to find a place. And with the housing shortage, especially to rent, because everyone is selling, it's tough. Money was never the issue, but finding a place that we could all fit was difficult. You also tell them you have 11 children. Not many are willing to give you a chance. They spoke to local news media to publicize their story in July, concerned that other families were also facing homelessness due to the shortage of properties. Someone local reached out to offer a small storage unit, but then they had to part with many of their belongings, so they stored them. An international audience reached out to donate food, blankets, clothing, and prayers. But no houses, said Brittany. One person stated they owned some land, but it was 30 minutes outside of town. Well, the family was out of options, so they took the offer. They set up camp on that land and stayed there for 3 long months. Living in a tent with 13 people was crazy, Brittany reflected. We had no running water or bathrooms. There was dirt everywhere all the time. We were cooking on a barbecue grill and had no fridge. The kids couldn't play as normal because there were snakes and coyotes, and we even saw a mountain lion. As summer ended and the mountains grew cold, Brittany and Danny worried, but comforted themselves by creating a family motto. As long as we are together and healthy, that's what matters. Their guardian angel came along in the nick of time. Realtor Russell Fawcett of Salt Lake City heard their story from a local radio station through which he advertises and called them with a proposition. He wanted to buy a house to rent to them, but he wanted them to choose it. Wow. Brittany and Danny had reservations and refrained from telling their kids. Things had been so hard, letdown after letdown. We didn't want to get too excited and then have it not happen. Yet the prospect of a new home in their time of greatest need was irresistible. They began searching and found a 4-bedroom home in Tremonton, fully refurbished. Fawcett even hired a team to transform half the family room into 2 additional bedrooms. Everyone cried the day they got the keys in mid-September and the kids saw their new home for the first time. Brittany said that thank you is not enough for the amazing, good-hearted Fawcett and his immense generosity. He has been such a huge blessing to our family, she said. He reached out to help and went above and beyond. He never really shared why he decided to help us, other than he heard our story, knew he needed to do something, and was in a position to help at the time. So he did. And the Sheltons do want you to remember all the other homeless who need a place to live. And what I want you to do as we're closing today is to think about ways that you might be able to bless somebody else during this Christmas season. Maybe like this man, make the spirit of generosity a year-round type of activity. And I want to wish you and your family and your friends and all the people at your residence there happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, and Merry Christmas to all. Bye, everybody. I'll see you next week on this program. We're getting near the end of the semester. Bye.